Alright, here are the vocab 4 words. Your first one here, affable, courteous and pleasant, sociable or easy to speak to. All the synonyms are pretty good. Amicable is pretty good. The way I remember this, affable kind of sounds like laughable, and laughing is pleasant. So that's what I used to remember it, so hopefully that's helpful. Aggrandize is pretty easy. It's got this root word in here, grand. I can highlight the whole thing. But to increase in power or to grow greater, amplify is pretty good. Enhance is also a pretty good synonym. I always think of those biscuits, those Grand's biscuits by Pillsbury, and when you put them in the oven, they get bigger. Amorphous, shapeless or without definite form. So you see this root word here, morph, which typically means to change shape. So something that is amorphous will be constantly changing shape. So if you have like some pudding and you put it in a glass, it would fill the glass. Or if you put it in a bowl, it would fill the bowl. Formless is pretty good, and nebulous is good here. Archetype, original model, that's pretty good, so model is our synonym here. So archetype is typically something from which people will draw inspiration, and they look to aspire to that model, so they get better. Aura, that which surrounds as an atmosphere. Ambiance is pretty good, or atmosphere are both good synonyms. So typically just somebody is very pleasant, they might be surrounded by kind of a pleasant aura, and they cheer people up around them. Contraband, illegal traffic, or smuggled goods. Typically it's anything illegal. Illicit and bootleg, unlawful are all pretty good synonyms. So like if you try to go into a movie theater and you try to bring in outside food or drink, it's considered contraband, so they'll take it from you. Although it's not illegal, it is prohibited. That's a good one for that one. Erudite, scholarly, or bookish are both pretty good. Educated, so it's that your group of people from that movie that I can't think of the name of, but all the smart people belong to the erudite clan. Divergent, I think that's what it is. So erudite just means very, very smart. Gossamer, thin, light, or delicate. This one is often confused with sleazy, because sleazy says thin or flimsy in texture. However, the difference here is something that's gossamer is deliberately thin. Alright, so something sheer, so like silk or like kite material, so that's deliberately thin by design. Something that's sleazy is just shoddily made, so it is like kind of poor quality. Alright, inscrutable, incapable of being understood or impossible to see through physically. Incomprehensible is a pretty good synonym, or enigmatic, which means like an enigma. I took Calculus 2 in college, and I couldn't figure it out. I was really bad at it, so that to me was very inscrutable. Also, if there's like something written in a foreign language, it might be inscrutable to you. Insular, relating to an island is pretty good, but the one you'll see most often is narrow, or isolated outlook or experience. So narrow-minded or provincial, one of our old units or old words. So somebody is insular, they don't really have much of an open mind. So they're, again, very narrow-minded. Up here, if we go up to irrevocable, you see the word here, revoke, in there. So if you have your license revoked, it's taken from you. So if something is irrevocable, it means it cannot be taken back. Irreversible here is pretty good. So if you make a decision that can't be changed, it will be an irrevocable decision. Propensity, natural inclination or predilection towards, so it just means you're really good at something. So people who are athletic typically have a propensity for sports. So we have proclivity here, which is our one of our old words. So it just means you're born inherently good with something. Querulous, complaining or fretful. Petulant is an old word here, or cranky. So somebody is querulous, they're just typically not really in a good mood. Remonstrate here, to argue or plead with someone against something. Protest against is pretty good. To reason against or expostulate, that's an old word too. You're just trying to convince somebody not to do something. Repudiate, to disown, reject, or deny the validity of. This one's pretty good. Disavow is pretty good. So if you're accused of something, you would try to repudiate that if you did not do it. So the opposite is to confirm that you did it. This just means to deny something. Resilient here, able to return to original shape or form. So it could be literally like a rubber band. If you stretch it out, it returns back to its original form. But more often, it kind of refers to a person. So if a person's spirit is resilient, like Rocky, he or she can take a beating and come on back. Reverberate, this one is pretty easy, just means to echo. Scurrilous and sleazy people often confuse. Scurrilous here, coarsely abusive or vulgar, but especially in language. The foul-mouthed here is pretty good. So scurrilous is typically somebody who will speak in a way that is kind of inappropriate. So a lot of curse words or obscene things. while sleazy down here has to do with somebody's character. So the person may not say a lot of bad words or offensive things, but they might generally just be a bad person. So again, scurrilous has to do with language, while sleazy has to do with character. Sedulous just means very persistent, so somebody's very hardworking, or tireless, they are sedulous. And again, here sleazy, thinner, flimsy in texture. So something that is deliberately, or not deliberately, something that's just poorly made, so cheap in quality. And then the other meaning is somebody who doesn't necessarily have a good character, so somebody who's kind of shady or mean.